There was the world, and then there was Queen Christina. She's a musician, a fashion designer, and an artist. She's been around for the last 18 months, and she's done 5 albums in that time, I believe. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's right. What I'm trying to do is look to build an art scenario around my music in much the same way as Lady Gaga has with hers. The idea I had first of all was to try to make everything on a really low budget and not spend any money. And I initially tried to make costumes and crowns from the cheapest stuff I could find. There's a song on my very first album which is called Freegan Style, which basically describes the lifestyle of freegans who just take anything that's free. And the very first crown I made was made from junk mail and stitched together. The newspaper dress didn't last beyond the photo shoot. The second crown I made was made of photocopies from a book about cathedrals. I wanted to make something that was very traditional looking and referencing architecture in some way, and so I made loads and loads of photocopies of pictures of cathedrals and stapled them together. This crown, this was for the London's Burning album, and it basically represents flames. It features on the back of the album cover.
Wow, what's this one? Can you explain this? This is incredible.
Yes, this is quite fun. This was for the Queen of the Night. I did a cover of the Holle Rache aria by Mozart from the Magic Flute. And this is actually foam board with textured paint to make it look like masonry. And it's covered in black gesso. It's lined inside, so it's a bit more comfortable to wear. But I wanted to really evoke this Gothic Sturm und Drang scenario, and it seems to have worked very well.
I hope you don't mind me saying, but you look a bit like a mason here.
Yeah.
Are you a mason?
Well, no, but if I was, I probably wouldn't tell you. This is an alternative costume for the Magic Flute aria. And yes, I wanted to bring the whole masonry theme into play because Mozart and his librettist Schikaneder were both masons, and the whole opera was really involved in exploring the differences between religion and masonry. So that's what I wanted to bring out.
I don't know what to say. This one's incredible. What is it?
Right, this was inspired by Louis XIV. I've got a bit of a thing about the monarch being almost like a deity, really. It's for a song I did called Sun King. Again, it's foam board. I make a lot of stuff from foam board with metallic burnishing applied to it. It was very challenging to make. I mean, it's an amazing thing to have on your head. You have to keep your head vertical at all times.
This one was for what? Which song was this? Wonderland?
Yes, I was very fascinated by the Tim Burton movie, Alice in Wonderland. And I wanted to create the scenario here, which was a little bit like Alice wandering into the Garden of Flowers, the flowers all having faces on them and being semi-threatening, but I didn't want them to be threatening. I wanted them to be a bit more approachable and cuddly. The identity I take on here is a bit like Alice and the Queen of Hearts combined. I'm wearing a crown or it's supposed to be a crown, which is made up from cotton organza and stretch velvet. I do often feel very much like Alice myself, or I have, because I'm very logical. Although I'm creative, I'm very, very logical with it, and sometimes I find it very difficult to accept it when people go off in a really, really, really abstract manner.
Now, I recognise that scene from somewhere. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, I know that scene.
It's the knight and chess image from the Seventh Seal. I'm dressed as both the knight and death. I've got a very strong affinity for both characters somehow. The song it illustrates is called I Sing to the World. I just felt that was the image the song conjured up. I made this fantastic leather hood, which was sort of leather base. It had lots of discs of coloured leather sewn onto it and sheepskin lined ears. I wanted it to be like one of those hoods the Russian bogatyrs wore. I was very fascinated with Russian history at the time. Russia did have sort of links with Sweden in terms of its rulers. There's all kinds of obscure references going on in there.
Now that, if you don't mind me saying, is pure Gaga. That is very, very Lady Gaga, wouldn't you say?
I enjoy exploring the idea of religion in my music, and see that the T-shirt I did for the knight character gets another airing here. And I've got a crown of thorns which is made from sharpened matchsticks, actually, because this is again recycling theme coming into my work. This costume and headdress were to illustrate a song of mine called Dr. Susan. I had a friend who was a medical herbalist, and I wrote a song about her. I've always been very fascinated by tropical rainforests, and I always wanted to have a really tribal dress with lots of fur and leather strips hanging off it, and so that's what I did. I had a lot of leather spare because I used to make leather gloves, and so I used it in the dress. That was again an excellent example of recycling.
That looks like a hall of mirrors, that picture.
I originally had a foil costume to go with this crown, but obviously that's disposable, much like the newspaper costume that I used before. The crown itself is made, again I think I made that from foam board and applied mirror mosaic on top of that, and also mirror card.
What is this exactly?
Have you ever heard of the tale of Baba Yaga? She's the Russian witch.
I can't say I have.
Well, look it up and read it is all I can say. She's a Russian witch that eats children, and I wrote a song about her. She's got a little house in the middle of the forest which stands on chicken legs, and this is a replica of it. Again, that's foam board with bits of leather applied, and I painted it in enamel and black gesso. I wanted it to be a little bit like a reliquary that you wear on the top of your head, so it has a band, a hairband, which it screws onto, and you can carry it on your head. This is the illustration of it. I like to make illustrations to go with the costumes. I'm inspired a lot by the artist Ivan Bilibin, who's a fantastic Russian illustrator and painter.